Today in Plant Coaster Vaddjian, we built the burrows for the rabbits and we start on the lift hill. So I hope you like the video and be prepared for a lot of rambling, like usual. So as I told you in the previous video, this coaster was really inspired by just those movies or the videos where the bird scoops up the little defenseless rabbit and, well, it dies obviously, but from that I wanted to make it look like the hawk was literally diving into the burrow of the rabbit. And I do have to say immediately, no, I will not make any rabbits in the burrow. I won't make like a blood spatter, because even though I wouldn't cry when such things happen, it's still not the nicest view to see. So the burrow will basically be just sort of a half buried cave and then a little bit of plant life in it, because the burrow is really meant to be the home of the rabbit. So it needs to be a bit warmer, or at least a little bit more defended against the weather. And half of this is because it's half buried, and the other half is with the plants and everything that saw that as like natural insulation against the cold. Though the biggest problem with the burrow was that, yeah, for the coaster it needs to really look like a burrow, so there needs to be like a bit of weird scaling, because from the coaster basically everything has to appear a bit larger when it comes to like the burrow and something in the next video. But for anyone outside of the coaster, it doesn't, or I don't want it to look like, what the frick is that? I really wanted to blend into the rest of the landscape, even though when you look at it from the coaster, you immediately see what it's supposed to be. But if you look at it from outside of the coaster, like if you are watching the drop, it isn't like, oh yeah, that doesn't fit. Because there are two viewpoints to the coaster and to just the outsider, basically. And this is the part where most of the time I would build stuff and then I would go on the coaster, look if everything was right, if nothing was clipping, and of course everything was clipping. I'm so used to, well, first of all, I don't build a lot of coasters, so I wasn't used to building a coaster, but I'm really more used to just normal trains where you aren't dangling off the side of the track, so it was weird to play into that. I know should probably know that, like, after I think 3-4, I don't even know anymore how long Plant Coaster has been out. But I should have probably built a lot more coasters since then, but I just really like to build cities and such, so I've never really went into, you know, coaster territory. Or if I did ever like complete a coaster, which is rare, then basically it wouldn't survive longer than that single coaster. I'm really more of the guy for just the steaming and the scenery around it. That's what I really enjoy building. Like a coaster, alright, it's fun to build, but it's not like my main priority. I also found that these trees, which I think were added in the vintage pack or in some pack, for me they are the perfect bushes and shrubbery in Vaddjian, because they are small, they are just the right color and not too much like damn nature. Like they're with the normal like forest bushes and such, they are a bit larger, and I use those primarily in like the caves or where the steam pits are. And these bushes really, they are just small enough and just the right color that they go a bit better in with the nooks and crannies of the rock. I don't know where I went with that, or where I wanted to go with that. I just liked those trees, and I don't even use them as trees. And yeah, I'm really debating like how the next parts of Vaddjian are going to look like, because of course the plains of Melandru are the nature part, so it's a bit more sensible to have a bit more nature, like, but the rest of the park, like, how am I going to do that? Is it going to look a bit similar like the plains of Melandru with like when it comes to, well, plants, or do I need to find something different? And I think it will be the latter, just to really give you guys 6 really different parts. Because if there's there can be a bit of similarity between the parts, but beyond that, you see that a lot with just entertainment parks or just fun. I lost the word for it and I tried some other words and now, yeah. But with parks, usually when there's like a different part of the park or a different area, then the theme is sometimes drastically different. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to use the Disney approach where like you have Frontierland and Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. I think that's the right word. I don't go to Disney a lot. I like the park, but for some reason it's just like, I don't know, it feels a bit too commercial for me. I really just like, I would say maybe like Europa Park and the Efteling and Fantasia Park or again lost the word, so I'm going to stop there. But those are more parks that I like because there's a bit more like theming and a bit more original feeling to that park, or to those parks actually. So yeah, those are a bit my favorite parks. And I was wondering, what are your guys' favorite parks? Are you like similar to me and you rely or like a little bit more when it comes to original and a bit more scenery heavy, or do you really like just Disney and that makes it really sound like Disney is a bad park? It's not. It's just not my taste. It's just like I appreciate how much Disney has done with parks and everything and how influential they are, but for me they're just not the right thing, or just they don't really suit me. Let's keep it at that. I like Disney, but they are not like my top 5. So yeah, what are your guys' favorite parks? Or what is the thing you're looking for when you think of your favorite park, if you don't really have a favorite? But anyways, back to the coaster, of course. It's really, like I said it a lot of times already, but I think the main thing that I really like about this coaster really is the frozen river and the frozen lake. Although I would probably call it a frozen pond because it's really small actually. If you think of the frozen pond with the idea of like everything when you're on the coaster needs to be bigger, that like the burrow in the coaster looks really like a burrow, then the pond would literally be a puddle. Luckily it's not, because, well, yeah, I just didn't want to make a huge ass lake, because the area for the Plains of Melandru is actually probably one of the smaller areas. Like I have divided the park into 6, well actually 8 if you count the parts of the town with them, but there are 6 parts or areas to the parks, or to the park, and I tried to make them all look equal, like that they all had the same size, that none of the areas looked really bigger, but for some reason the Plains of Melandru are actually probably, they look like the smallest part. It's probably because it's already filled with a bit more scenery, so that's why, but it might also be because of, well, the mountain work and the terrain work, which actually goes a little bit into the area of the Plains of Melandru more than the other areas are probably going to have to, well, need. Because Melandru is the goddess of nature, growth, but she's also the goddess of earth. So it made sense for her to have a little bit more mountain in her area. Where was I going with this? I don't know. As I said in the intro, be prepared for a lot of rambling. Well, I can say that happens. For the lift hill, I basically don't want to be having like a really smooth path, because you are, when you're riding the coaster, you are the bird, you are the hawk, is what I want it to feel like. So I don't want there to be like a path up the mountain. So yeah, there's no path up the mountain, and this is the part I will probably hate the most. But I also placed a little, well, how would you call it, like just a little, well, rock sticking out with the ravens on it, and they are probably like the most annoying part of them, or the most annoying animatronic, because they make so much noise. And I usually build with the game playing, just so I can see like if I'm placing something, if it's clipping, or if it's, you know, I let the coaster roll through it so that I see if the coaster is clipping through it. But then you can also hear those ravens constantly without break. You can just hear them constantly, and it drives me nuts. I've actually built a coaster station already where I used a lot of ravens, and I just deleted that. Not only because I was annoyed by the ravens, but also because, yeah, the idea was nice in my head, but when I worked it out, didn't really go over too well. But to give a proper explanation of the idea I had, it was basically a bird sanctuary, where priests of Melandru, or priestesses, or just people devoted to Melandru who take care of injured birds, and well, just birds in general. But because the bird sanctuary kinda got a greenhouse feel with very luscious green plants, the contrast, though it started off nice, just became too much, and by the end of it I was just like, yeah, it just doesn't work right. But that will probably be it for today. In the next video we will tackle the nest of the hawk, and we will start with the queue. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, don't forget to subscribe. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!